Welcome. Here we discuss real stories by real people. Today we have the relationship story of a man whose STBX is upset at him for divorcing her. Let's see how it goes. It's been about a month since I, 32 male, discovered my wife's 29 affair with a coworker. It was an emotional affair that turned physical in June, roughly 5 months ago. She says they only did it twice, but I'd take that with a grain of salt. It doesn't matter how many times, whether it was on our marital bed, his marital bed, or a Wendy's parking lot. The fact of the matter is, I'm out. I was out before I knew about the physical aspect. The emotional aspect itself was nauseating. Months and months of chat logs of pouring each other's hearts out, professing love, planning for a life together, etc. Mind you, he has a fiancé and a toddler at home. Sickening. I filed for divorce and got her to move out. She had nowhere to go. Her parents are ashamed of her, and her friends and my friends are all on my side, so I have a great support system. She got none. Yesterday, when we met to discuss division of our belongings, she was visibly upset and kept saying she never thought this would happen. She's struggling to find an affordable place to live and is upset about not getting any support from anybody. It hasn't dawned on her yet that nobody wants to be supportive of a homewrecker that blew up 2 families. I didn't say anything and just kept my mouth shut. I'm still maintaining full no contact otherwise. We have no kids and no shared assets. She earns a bit more than I do, so I won't be the one paying alimony if it came to that. I cannot wait for the divorce to be finalized. Story 2. My 40-year-old STBXW of 10 years, partner for 20, had an affair with her coworker in the summer last year. I discovered the affair fairly after I did some basic investigation, which was prompted by her complete disinterest in me, even contempt, and her obsessive yet secretive phone usage. So it all came out, and it was horrible. I had weeks off work with depression, and we had ups and downs during those early weeks post-D-Day, but we concluded that it was worth a try to save the marriage. We have 2 young kids aged 7 and 3. They are our world, and I was incredibly reluctant to disrupt their lives. To top it all off, just a few weeks before D-Day, I had also lost my mother and was in a low place anyway, so I was really desperate to get life back on track. My only demand was that in order for us to try to rekindle our marriage, she must leave her high-paid and high-profile legal job, or her AP must instead. She agreed to my demand because I also have a good job and we could cope financially. Plus, as a family, we'd be better off with investing her time into the kids. Then just a couple of days later, she took a U-turn on that and said she could not leave the job that she loved and the career that was 20 years in the making for such a stupid, meaningless mistake. We then have a few months of ups and downs. I can't tell you how mentally challenging it is to watch someone you are trying to love and trust go and sit next to her former AP all day. But I tried to put it to the back of my mind for the sake of the kids and the family, and I just about held down my own job with the support of some incredible folk who really believe in me. Now, it must be said I read these pages a lot, and I read Chump Lady and various other sources regarding infidelity, and I knew what an awful idea it was for the marriage to let this coworker situation persist. I had feelings of revenge, insecurity, and inadequacy, and even felt suicidal in the early days after D-Day. As time went on, I wasn't being reassured on anything. In fact, to the contrary, I was often being sidelined again as we slipped back into life stuff. Of course, that life stuff was happening to both of us, because running a young family is innately challenging, and putting out the trash ain't no aphrodisiac. And naturally, I was paranoid that as soon as any disagreement happened between me and my wife, she would be back in the arms of her AP. I felt this would happen because, although it remained unsaid, I was acutely aware that was her happy place. It's the fantasy land where only good stuff happens and she gets all the attention. I'd read all of their WhatsApp messages and they were clearly in fantasy land. My advice to anyone faced with the coworker AP situation is that it has to be full severance, in that one of the 2 people involved leaves the job in order to even have a chance of your relationship working. Anything less, and you are a mug or a chump. You might be an amazingly caring and trusting mug or chump, but you are one nevertheless because that easy fix of dopamine is there for the cheater on tap and justified or excused by even the slightest difficulty in the marriage. If your partner doesn't leave that job, then end the marriage yourself because, trust me, it will save the double dose of pain you'll get. Better to get it all out in one hit than continually torment yourself. I let the situation persist, and doing so cost me wasted emotions and a potentially worse financial settlement. And as predicted, recently my wife told me the marriage wasn't working and that she wanted a divorce. I reluctantly agreed because over the prior month, she just wouldn't engage with me on any level. But for the next week or two, I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders, often crying about the implications for the kids. I later confirmed, with another basic piece of investigative work, that of course she was seeing the AP again, so my paranoia was justified. Anyway, her telling me that the marriage wasn't working was dishonest. Well, what do you expect from a cheat? It was her that was making the marriage not work, and the mundane nature of the daily grind wasn't ever going to be able to compete with an exciting dose of Mr. Flashcar Super Dick. And now I feel okay. I'm happy. It's about 2 months since the divorce discussion, and I'm very close to moving out of the family home. I feel liberated to be getting rid of this delusional but headstrong individual who has controlled everything in my life for 20 years, but is ironically now herself being controlled, influenced, manipulated by the AP, who is a lot younger and doesn't have kids. On the other hand, I'm also obviously very concerned that I'm being shifted out to be replaced as a dad to my kids by this guy who, on the evidence I have, seems to be very narcissistic. But there is nothing I can do legally to affect the situation. I'm older, 46, and I have more accumulated and inherited wealth, so she's going to get a nice settlement from me, whether I like it or not. And in the UK, where I'm from, adultery doesn't even affect the settlement. To top it off, it's likely she'll get preferential custody because over here the mothers generally get that. It's actually a deeply unfair situation, but not one that I have too much ability to control. Oh, and did I mention she's a lawyer? I don't hate her. Hate is a wasteful emotion. She just changed. She may as well have died because the person I loved is no longer there. That person would not have betrayed me and would have helped me out of depression when my mother died, rather than asking me to take the morning off to look after our youngest kid so that she could go to an important meeting, which I later discovered actually meant fucking her co-worker at his house whilst he should have been working from home. Anyway, I'm no longer bitter, and following the best advice on this subreddit, I now know my only ability to influence anything is to make sure I am in a good place, physically, mentally, and as best as I can be financially, once she has taken all that she can, in order to be able to look out for the kids and pick up the pieces for them when this all unravels into shit for her. I just can't see how a relationship between two narcissists is going to last if he ends up moving in. I know it won't be a healthy situation for my kids, but my scope of influence in that situation is zero. She never listened to my opinion whilst we were married, so she definitely won't now. However, I won't be afraid to raise concerns regarding the kids' welfare. Although right now it must be said I've nothing substantial to back up that there is any risk. That's just a natural fear of mine, I guess. But the best I can do is try to keep an eye on the situation from afar. But myself, I feel liberated and thankful that this has unfolded now whilst I am still healthy and capable of dealing with it. Hopefully I can set my kids a good example and they will be resilient and know that they always have my unconditional love. Fingers crossed there, maybe one day I will find someone with a kind heart to grow old with. You need to immediately contact the AP's partner, but do not inform her employer. This could backfire on you, and you might have to end up paying her alimony if she's jobless instead of other way round. Once the affair is exposed to his partner, look how fast he'd throw your wife to the wolves to salvage his own marriage or even job. Your wife is in a lose-lose situation and she's not even aware of it. Be prepared for her to either want to reconcile once the affair fog clears or to blame you entirely for any consequences she faces. Do not let her have her way. Good luck. Now for some comments. Okay, so I'm in the UK and what you think isn't what's going to happen. The courts take a very dim view of the spouse who has broken the marriage through an affair and are very friendly towards the one who tried to fix it. Do you have a solicitor and one that will fight for your interest? She's a lawyer, so she's earning a good income, and on that alone, any settlement she gets will be far lower than you think because of her established income. Also, the courts will look at the behavior of the two of you in the history that you tried to save it, but she didn't bother or only did what she needed to do so that you'd calm down. You've got a great attitude and are light years ahead of most everybody else if you don't feel anger towards that narcissistic pig that took over your wife's body. Don't get frustrated if you're not as completely healthy as soon as you would like to. It's normally a process. Good luck. You'll find someone who will treat you right, but don't be in a hurry. Those two may or not stay together, but she'll definitely find out Fantasyland is not what she thought.